I have a question. Um, while I understand the duality of likes and dislikes, um, is there a hope to be overwhelmed and be humbled by extreme, likes and dislikes, pleasures, for example, coming from eating, food or drink or any of the five sensory perceptions. In other words, heightening the experience of these perceptions so that the doer dies, the activity remains. Um, you know, is there any sense in this?
If you put into your mouth a lot of red hot chilies, that would be heightened sensation. But how will that lead to the death of the experiencer or doer or actor? Heightened sensation implies that there is somebody to receive that sensation, right? That somebody is called the ego. The deeper the sensation, the higher the excitement, the more alert is the ego. It is not going to drop dead. If it is going to drop dead, who will be left to experience anything? In fact, all these are just backhanded ways to keep consuming sensation and pleasure without appearing irreligious or not spiritual. So man has devised tricks to not merely consume and sensate, but actually sensate with the professed objective of going beyond sensation. That is not going to happen. It doesn't matter how deep or high your sensation is. It doesn't matter how many times you repeat sensory experiences. This kind of a repetition will never take you beyond sensory experiences. You understand vritti? Vritti implies a particular circle. A circle represents a closed system. It doesn't matter how much you run along a circle, you are never going to reach anywhere. It doesn't matter how many times you repeat along the circumference, you will never really exceed the circle. So this concept that encourages people to consume more, to experience more, to go deeper into sensory things is all quite wasteful. It will give you pleasures, it will keep making you feel righteous and quite clever. You will tell yourself, look, I'm having the best of both worlds. On one hand, I'm enjoying all the pleasures. On the other hand, I am gaining in the spiritual dimension as well. It looks such a great deal. It is a rotten deal. Do not go for it.
So in progressive paths, right? Let's take an example of Jains. In progressive paths, right? So let's take an example of Jains, right? Where fasting is so much important, right? So that's an example of focusing on sensory perception, right? Where if I can remember that I'm always hungry, right? I just can't move away from it, right? And eventually, the goal is to kind of realize that I'm not the body. Um, so can similarly, on a spectrum, right? If I have to plot a chart, I would say that eating my favorite food is on this side of the spectrum, and then fasting is on the other side of the spectrum. But both of these, right, kind of keep me engaged to the body,
No,
right?
no, they don't. It is the body's prakritic constitution that keeps attracting it to food. It is not that you lie at the center, at some neutral point, to the right of which lies binging and to the left of which lies fasting. This is a very inappropriate model. It is not this way. Only man needs fasting, animals don't. Because man tries to fill his inner vacuum through food. For animals, food is merely nutrition, life-giving energy. That's what animals use food for. That's why animals don't get obese. You may see a very fat cat, but it would probably be a domesticated cat. In general, in the wild, animals don't get fat. They don't starve either, usually. You will not generally see an emaciated cat, except if it is a domesticated cat. Man overeats because man is trying to fulfill his inner vacuum. Fasting is advised so that you can see that not having that kind of surplus food is not really increasing your inner vacuum. Please understand the equation. If food could fill my inner vacuum, as we often tell ourselves, don't we? If I am not feeling quite well, somebody would come and advise me to go to my favorite food joint. And food does release certain chemicals inside the brain which make you feel all right. So, what we tell ourselves is that food can be an agent of inner welfare as well, not merely physical, but inner welfare, mental welfare. The equation says food can give you welfare. By the same equation, it should imply that lack of food should deepen your inner crisis. Fasting is an experiment to demonstrate that lack of food, rather lack of excess food, not lack of food. That lack of excess food does not quite worsen your inner crisis. In fact, it doesn't worsen it at all. It probably relieves the inner tension. So, a realization dawns upon the one who is fasting. The realization is food will not help in spiritual and psychological matters. I am taking the wrong route. I'm trying the wrong medicine. The disease that I have cannot be healed by food. Are you getting it? Similar to fasting is donating. Just as the body wants excess food, rather the mind wants excess food, thinking that excess food can be an agent of inner welfare. Similarly, the mind wants to accumulate excess wealth, thinking that wealth can be an agent of inner welfare. When you give away something, when you let go or drop or donate, then you realize that giving away hasn't really made you poorer in the internal sense. It has actually improved the inner climate. You are not feeling worse at all. Whereas the old assumption was, if I have more money, I'll feel better. If I have less money, I'll feel worse. But here you are. You have just donated away something, probably something big. And you aren't feeling worse at all in the psychological sense. That helps you acknowledge another fact about life, which is that it is not wealth that you are really longing for. It is not food and it is not wealth that you are really craving for. It is something else. All these are pointers towards the beyond. Right? Something else. It is not food, it is not wealth, it is not prestige, it is not knowledge, it is something else.